Howdy folks, so today we are here with Naeem and Khadeejah, also South Africans that has moved to Vancouver roughly just at the same time as us, not too long after, and they're here to tell us a little bit about their journey and give us some advice on what it's like. So when exactly did you guys come to Vancouver?
So we moved in August of 2021. So it's been, just a little over 3.5 years. It's been quite a journey. But I think it's safe to say that we've enjoyed it, but it has not been easy. But we're happy to call it home.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So just tell us a little bit about what made you decide to come here. What was the deciding factor?
Oh, Khadeejah?
Yeah, so Naeem wanted to continue his studies. So of course we came through the study permit route. I came in with an open work visa, and we had a little bit of time in South Africa to get everything going, because that process it's quite quick. It's quite a quick process.
Yeah.
We came here. I found out I was pregnant in South Africa, so I got here when I was 5 months pregnant.
But you also had a youngster already then.
Yes, so we already had our little one, Kayla. She was around 2.5 years when we got here. So it was quite a crazy journey trying to sell everything within, I think, a 7-week period.
7-week period, yeah.
Wow. And so it happened that fast. You guys came in. You were saying you were stuck during COVID, and you decided you wanted to carry on with your studies and get yourself a little bit, and then one thing led to another, and you decided you might as well come and study over here.
Yeah. So obviously, with most people, with lockdown happening, the economy in South Africa took a bit of a hit, and with a lot of the sectors being shut down, I had some time on my hands, and during that time, we had started a business in South Africa, but we also started upskilling ourselves, and during that point, I figured, okay, the next step would be just to formalize my studies and to get a degree. And I started looking at options, around the world, in terms of what I can do remotely. And then Canada was an option, and then we said, okay, let's give it a try. I mean, there's no harm in, applying.
Yeah.
And we applied, and I got accepted. And it kind of snowballed after that, because, one thing fell into place after the other. But the catch was that at the time, because of COVID and because of the lockdown, the borders had just opened up for travel to Canada. But we were also aware at the time that, okay, Khadeejah is pregnant. We have a second one on the way. Do I defer and we potentially, move over a year later, or do we come now and risk the chance of the borders closing again? So it was a tough one, but we pulled the trigger, and we had about 6 to 7 weeks to kind of finalize things in South Africa, sell off, some furniture, and arrange for whatever was meant to be shipped.
Well, I mean, at the time, that made a lot of sense, I guess, because the reality is, if you didn't know when it was going to shut, I mean, nobody knew what the hell was going to happen next.
Definitely. And I think that uncertainty kind of lit a fire under us to just get things done.
Yeah.
Just get it going. Yeah. And then when you arrived here, how was that?
It was obviously nerve-wracking, because we didn't have any support on the side. We didn't know anybody on the side. When friends and family found out that we were doing this, it was both excitement for us and a bit of hesitation, because they all thought we were crazy. But we had some friends and family then reach out to us to say, hey, but I know the South African that moved here, once upon a time, maybe I'll try and connect you with them. But we didn't expect anything. Yeah. So we landed, and the day we landed, I think 2 people reached out to us, South Africans, who found out just somehow through some networks that we were coming. Yeah. And they were courteous enough just to reach out to say, hey, if you need anything, let us know. Maybe we'll call you over for a dinner and, get together type of thing. And it was a very pleasant landing in that sense, but nerve-wracking nonetheless, traveling during COVID. And
No, of course, but I mean, that is amazing though, because it's like people very much underestimate how much it means when you arrive here to just know somebody, even if you don't know them, but to just kind of know somebody.
Yeah.
I've had so many people over the years that would reach out to me and they would be like, we're landing in 2 weeks' time, and I'm so worried. My ABSA credit card, will it work over there? And then and then I'm like, don't worry, your credit card will work, but here's my phone number. If you have any problems, just call me. Nobody's ever phoned me because stuff works when you arrive here. But still,
it works. I mean, we were lucky enough to get an Airbnb. Secure something before coming through to Canada, and I mean, we arrived here. The lady gave us the PIN code for the house for the unit. We just had to put the PIN code in, and we walked into everything
fully
was
furnished, everything perfect.
Was done. We had to just go and get some groceries from down the road, and we were good.
And you stayed in that Airbnb for
almost 3 years.
For 3 years. It just worked out very well.
We were very lucky in the sense that it was a new unit. And what we were able to do was actually like negotiate a long-term rate. So the owner was happy to do so. So it was a basement unit, and obviously they lived above, and they were happy. It was a 2-bedroom unit, and it just worked out to our advantage in that sense. So we didn't need to buy furniture or anything, which was great. It took a lot of pressure off initially, so we could spend more time on figuring out what our next steps were in terms of me starting my studies, job hunting.
So talk about that. So Khadeejah was telling me that she got a job or first interviews within a couple of days from arriving. And she actually has great advice for when you are coming over and you need to be looking for a job. You said you work LinkedIn really well.
So I mean, what I've noticed here in Canada is a lot of people use LinkedIn far more than they do in South Africa. So one of the steps that I took before coming to Canada was just following everybody or connecting with people that were in the same same sector as I was, right? So just following everybody in legal risk and compliance, and that's the predominantly in the banking sector. So just sending them a message and saying, hey, I'm coming to Canada. I'm looking for a job. I'm going to be on an open work permit, and like, if you know of any positions, let me know. So just send, I can't even remember how many.
Good few hundred messages.
Good few hundred messages, right? I mean, it's copy and paste, but you're getting it done, and you're following the right people.
You're getting in front of people, and they see that you are in the space already.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, that's exactly what I did. And of course, we arrived on Friday. I had first interviews from that the next Tuesday, and got a position within a week. Of course, it wasn't the position that I definitely wanted. I mean, it was more of an assistant position at first. I mean, I'm in the legal profession, so to go back to an assistant position.
So Khadeejah is a qualified lawyer, and then she starts here as an assistant.
But it was definitely interesting. And in 2 months after that, I mean, I got the position that I wanted, right? So it definitely takes some time, but I mean, just working LinkedIn made such a difference.
I think it does make a big difference. LinkedIn is a lot bigger over here than you would think. But you touched on another interesting thing, and Naeem, you were saying earlier also that one of the things you need to remember is when you arrive here, just take whatever. You also just took any job. I mean, a little bit about your history. I know Khadeejah is a lawyer. You've been in the marketing
I've been in operational, and then I kind of transitional from operations to sales and marketing for in different sectors. So I was in insurance and investments for a while, medical aid back in South Africa. Then I went into the built environment, specifically product specification for commercial buildings. And then when we opened up our business in South Africa, one of the steps was that I upskilled myself in terms of e-commerce and a bit on marketing. But I felt as though I had a real passion for marketing, so I wanted to formalize that. So hence the reasoning behind wanting to go back to studies. But I knew initially that, look, I wanted a job in sales and marketing. And I had identified a few industries, but I knew that I was coming here without a network. I knew that I was coming here, here without any previous international Canadian work experience. So I figured, okay, it's all well and good to come with this wealth of knowledge and to have these great titles that we had back home because we had built ourselves up. But it may be a situation of taking a few steps back to be able to hopefully leap forward in the near future. And that's exactly kind of the mindset we had. So to be honest, I took on a remote job when I came with a company based in the US, but I was able to work from Vancouver. And my first job was essentially customer service.
Yes.
So, a very different,
Very different to the level where you
Definitely.
were, because you were directors of companies.
Right.
And
It was fine because I figured, at the end of the day, it's part of the journey. And nothing's going to be easy, but the hope was to take that step to while I'm formalizing my education, just to get a little bit of Canadian work experience and US work experience. And so I did that while I was studying for the 2 years.
Yeah.
Pretty much gave up weekends.
Yes. We also gave up weekends.
Khadeejah, you were saying exactly.
We also gave up
I
weekends.
would be working from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yeah.
on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
But, at the end of it, once I then graduated, I was put in a far better position to apply for the jobs that I wanted and to land the job that I actually wanted. So,
Because you already had that little thing that is so important over here, the Catch-22 Canadian work experience. It's like,
So I always suggest to anybody, who reaches out to say, what are your suggestions? I said, forget the titles. What I would suggest is focus on your skill set, figure out the industry you're going to work in, and be willing to take a few steps back just so that you can get that experience and leap forward. Just look at it as paying your dues. Now, it might not be true for everybody because depending on your profession, sometimes that profession may be in demand and you might be able to demand the job that you want and get the job that you want. But I think for most people, it could be true to say that it can be difficult and quite daunting to find a job. And a strategy where you take what you get and you build yourself up and you network in that time frame is tried and trusted.
no, that definitely works. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
So, now you are now here 3.5 years, right?
Yeah.
And you only recently bought this house. You were telling me that you went back to South Africa. When was it? Last year?
Yeah, last August.
August, yeah.
Last August.
Yeah.
We traveled back. That was our first trip back. So that was exactly 3 years from when we had immigrated.
So the reason that we didn't go back before then is because we didn't have our permanent residency.
Oh, yes, of course.
I told Naeem, I think COVID really scared us. So I told him, if we don't get permanent residency, we're not leaving this country.
We're not going to get stuck anywhere.
I'm not going to get stuck anywhere.
Yeah.
So April last year, we got our permanent residency. We purchased our first place here in Canada, and in August, we flew back to South Africa to visit family, and it was nice. It was
it was
nice
great
to
seeing
meet
family.
them.
It was great spending time with them because
Yeah.
that is obviously something that you miss, being 16,000 kilometers away. So
Like literally on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
What's that? If you drill a hole right through the middle of the planet, you come off the coast of Durban.
Oh yeah, so there we go.
It's like exactly the opposite side of the planet.
Right.
Okay, so, and you had some interesting advice. I really enjoyed it earlier on when you were talking about what you call home, or a small little mindset. I love that name.
I always I try and look at things as objectively as possible, for the mere fact that objectivity kind of removes bias and it removes emotion from a lot of big decisions and equations, right? Don't get me wrong, it's also important to look at what your gut feel is, but we had a conversation when we landed, and after meeting some of South African immigrants who were here for quite some time, one of the things I picked up on was language and how people still refer to South Africa as home. And some of the challenges that they shared to us is that they didn't feel very settled here, although they were here for quite some time. And I kind of found a correlation between the two. And I told Khadeejah is that home is wherever we are.
Yeah.
South Africa is our heritage, it's our blood, it's the language we grew up with, the food we know, the people we know, but home is where we are. And I think it's really important that we refer to here as home for the mere fact is though, I want to feel like we're a part of something, and from there build on something, community and the rest of it. And so we got into that mindset really, really early on, and we found ourselves correcting friends and correcting family when they said, "Oh, when are you coming back home?" I would say, "But I am home. If you mean when are we going to visit South Africa? I hope it's soon because I really miss it. I really miss family and friends."
Yeah.
But and I think that kind of helped us in terms of just changing our outlook on things and figuring out that, okay, this is not temporary. This is a little bit more permanent for us, and that helped us kind of like build on that foundation and feel settled. To be honest, because at times you can definitely feel unsettled as an immigrant.
It's actually so true, because I mean I've on the South African shop.ca website, initially I had the headline as "The Tastes from Home," and then I changed it to "The Tastes from South Africa," because I thought the same thing. It's this is now home, so you can't refer to it as home, because it's actually amazing. I listen to a lot of psychology books, and I like understanding how the brain works. And it is phenomenal how something small like that, how big an influence it can have on your happiness and just your overall
outlook, right?
Your overall outlook. It's like, okay, this is home. I am home, and because I'm home, I'm going to have to, I'm going to work with this. I'm going to connect more with this, and that's about it.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so you came over with one pregnant and and a 2.5-year-old. Amazing, both little girls. What's their names?
So our eldest is Kayla. Our youngest is Sophia.
Kayla and Sophia. And when you got this is another interesting story. When did you decide to buy the house, or when did you buy the house?
So we had known that we wanted to put roots down, and we had obviously applied for our permanent residency. So it was just a matter of waiting until paperwork got processed. And so we waited, and I think it was
like you do in Canada,
right? And unfortunately, the status on your thing goes up to like everything's been completed, but you're just waiting on that decision. But you have no indication of when the decision is going to happen. It could happen today, tomorrow, a week down the line. You have estimate time frames, but it's nerve-wracking nonetheless.
It's crazy.
And I think I stand to be corrected, but I think we got an email on Tuesday morning. It was a Tuesday morning to say, "You've been approved. Well, you're now permanent residents of Canada." I was over the moon. So we had to look at our schedule. Keep in mind, we both work from home, so we had to look at our schedule. And I told Khadeejah, I said, "Listen, what time's your last meeting?" She said it was about 1:30. So I said, "Okay, book out from 2 to 4. We need to go and do something." And we jumped into the car. We drove from East Vancouver to South Surrey, where we are right now. And we went to the developer, had a look at the unit once more, and we made an offer and finalized or signed paperwork to actually finalize that offer. Because I told her, once permanent residency came through, the next thing is to put some roots down.
So as you can see, these guys they don't wait for stuff, right?
No.
On the same day.
I'm a very impatient person.
With Naeem, I think a lot of people will vouch that the day he landed in Canada was the day he said, "I'm going to buy a home." I was like, I told him like, it's still a journey, right? Like, we still got a couple. No, I'm gonna buy a home. So he knew he was gonna.
I always say you put it out there,
and
you work towards it, and you never know where you land up. But I think I'm very vocal about the things I want, and I'm willing to work towards it.
I think it's a very valid point. It's something that I did wrong over the last year or so. I started getting involved in this the prices are too expensive, the houses are too this. And what you do is you actually, when you start putting negative vibes out there, it actually closes you up. And I think I love it. Naeem, it's actually a great thing I'm chatting to you guys. It just gives me new energy.
We got a discount on the house, right?
So I think that's the Indian South African in me who managed to get a discount, which most people will know. In the Vancouver market or the BC market,
you don't get discounts, especially not these days.
so there was that was a pleasant surprise.
That was a pleasant surprise.
But again, I chalk it up to putting it out there and working towards it. And again, language. So I always tell Khadeejah, because even when we moved, it was also at kind of the start of where we saw that hyperinflation starting to happen. Where month on month you saw things going up on your grocery list, and then a few months go by and you're like, but I'm spending almost double what I was spending a year ago. So inflation is real. It's happening.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say inflation is happening pretty much all over the world. It's not just limited to BC and Vancouver. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
But my outlook's always been is it's not as though to outprice myself to say, oh, I can't afford this anymore. We always have this conversation. I'm like, what do we need to do to be able to afford it?
Yeah. It's
right?
like look at it from the other angle, because it's just so much more important.
Because otherwise you're going to bog yourself down. I mean, it is terrible that things go up in price and inflation, because I mean, the sad reality is that not everybody can actually handle that. And I always say that I don't want to be in that position where we can't handle it. And the only way around that is figure out beforehand what it is you need to do to maintain or to at least get ahead and thrive.
Brilliant. I love it. Excellent. Okay, so now another question. South Surrey.
Yes.
You lived in East Van. Well, before we go to South Surrey, you lived in East Van. I mean, oftentimes you hear East Van, you go, oh shit.
Yeah. So
it wasn't too bad.
No.
But I suppose East Van is a little bit bigger than just the little one part that's.
But it was so central to everything. So I told Naeem when we got here, I'm not getting my driver's license. I drove for so many years in South Africa. I am not getting my driver's license. I am taking the bus everywhere. I'm walking everywhere and I'm taking the bus. So it was probably the most central place in the Vancouver region to get to downtown, to get to Burnaby, to get to wherever we needed to go. And we loved it. We're 20 minutes away from everywhere,
pretty much.
So
I mean,
it was perfect.
We could be at Stanley Park in say 25 to 30 minutes, enjoying the ocean, and if I was back home, within 28 minutes I was on Mount Seymour skiing.
Yes,
so
it's like
it was super central, and then in terms of it being dangerous, there's certain areas, there's certain stretches that unfortunately they're going through some hardship and trouble, specifically with people that are unemployed, unhoused, and generally going through drug use as well. So I mean, that element does occur, but for the most part it's safe in terms of world standards. There's the odd petty crime.
Safe in terms of Joburg standards.
Oh no! I mean, it's a different ball game. So unfortunately, there are those individuals that are plagued with those hardships that that are currently residing in the East Vancouver area. But for the most part, it's just any general suburb, like any other general suburb. In BC or Vancouver. So
that's interesting,
we didn't have security issues.
You often hear, people are often like, oh shit, East Van, is it like, but I suppose it's like you say, I mean, the real tent camps and stuff, that's just in a small portion.
Section,
The other side is...
I definitely think it's up and coming. I mean, there's definitely a lot of developments happening, coffee shops opening up there.
Quite a bit of gentrification, so you see a lot of older buildings being bought up, in terms of land assembly and then redeveloped for low rises, 5-story buildings with like offices at the bottom, coffee shops type of vibe. So I see that it is growing. I mean, it's still a very desirable area because of its proximity.
Yeah, well, it's a great. I mean, like you say, 20 to 30 minutes by bus from everywhere. It's like
pretty much.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next question, South Surrey. This side. What made the decision? I mean, I don't have a lot of knowledge about this area.
Sure.
I love the fact that it's literally 7 minutes from the US border. For me, they'd have to pop through to the US regularly, but still.
I think South Surrey for us, we had identified certain areas that we wanted to put some roots down, and that varied from West and North Vancouver. Were on the list. Sections of Port Moody, Coquitlam were on the list, and then we looked at White Rock and South Surrey specifically. I found these areas to be a little quieter, so they didn't have much of the city buzz, but they were all within, like I would say, 35 minutes to an hour's drive to city central if we needed it. Because we both work from home, we have that flexibility. And South Surrey just seemed to tick a lot of boxes in terms of being a family-friendly area. Having young kids, we wanted them to grow up in an environment that we found conducive.
Like a suburb-y type
Yeah,
of...
more of a suburby thing. I think we, when we want the city vibe, we take a 45-minute drive downtown, we have some fun, meet up with some friends, and then we come back to our quiet, sleepy neighborhood, and we're fine with that.
It feels like a holiday here.
Nice.
It gives us the vibe. I don't know if you drove past all the little shops on the way. And
I came from the highway
so
side.
if you go back that way, I mean, you just a 500-meter walk, and I can go and get my massage at the RMT, catch a Tim Hortons, go for dinner. It's like, there's a lot of...
Well, it's definitely, there's a lot of development. I mean, this is a new complex. There's a new complex on the other side. There's more being built. It's like, really is...
No, it's definitely
it's
up and
great.
coming. And, personally myself, I grew up in a smaller town in South Africa. I grew up in Port Shepstone. So White Rock reminds me of, that coastal vibe you get from like Port Shepstone or from Margate, and I wanted that for my kids. So I love the fact that, it's a 7-minute drive to the ocean. I just jump in, go to the ocean, have some ice cream at the beach. Doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. We're very lucky in BC. It's not as cold as people think it is, to be honest. So it's great having that at our doorstep.
We were at the pier like a week ago.
Yeah, we went to see the lights at the pier during the evening. That was nice. And
amazing.
Some donuts.
Okay, so and of course, like you said, the school's literally right here, so the kids can walk to. Well, now you still walk with them, but when they're a little bit older, they can also.
I mean, that's the dream, right? The Canadian dream.
Yeah.
To have the kids' school close by. Eventually, they walk in with their friends to school. Right now, I'm walking them to school, but then the park as well. Close by. Next to the school. At some point, after school, they're probably going to go with their friends to the park. Come home, hopefully before dark, depending.
It's like when we grew up, right? It's like there were no cell phones or nothing, and your mom didn't worry. It's like you just had to be home by dark, and then you could
street lights popped on. You got home.
It's just giving them that independence to
which is amazing.
Kids,
I mean, it's definitely something that for us also meant a lot over here. The fact that the kids. Not that Connor does it, he plays games all night. But Angelique, she goes out and she can jump on the bus and go places and come back, and we don't have to worry about it. It makes a big difference, right?
It definitely does.
Okay, so what do you do at the moment? You are a lawyer and you are working at?
So I'm in the banking sector, more in compliance now. Although I was a practicing lawyer in South Africa and then I worked at F&B for a while in legal and compliance, I didn't really do my accreditation when I came here in terms of being a
lawyer.
I think it's a lot of studying, and with the kids, I'm not going to do that.
and you've got a good job. You're in a good place.
And in the banking environment, surprisingly, a lot of people ask me this question. Do I have to get my legal degree qualified before being a legal advisor at the banks or being in compliance or risk? No, you don't. They unless you a legal counsel or something of that. So some positions they don't really mind if you don't get your qualification.
Okay.
So nice. I went straight into initially like a legal affairs specialist, and then I moved into a compliance role. I've continued in that compliance role in the banking environment. And it's been
brilliant.
Perfect.
And Naeem?
So I'm in sales and marketing. I work for a software company, so I'm in SaaS. So I bridge the gap between sales and marketing. So I've taken my years of expertise on sales, marketing, and I kind of just married the two together. So
nice.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. So
okay, now one other thing that one of the reasons I'm sitting here with Khadeejah Naeem is like Khadeejah is one of our supporters at the South African Institute of Canada. She's actually she's our legal volunteer. So all of our paperwork she checks out and everything. But that's not the first time that you've been involved in volunteering and helping out community, right? Tell us a little bit about what you've done before.
Yeah, so I have a really big passion in terms of helping. When I was in South Africa, helping the South African community, helping our community in general. We lived in the Northcliffe area, and when I was on maternity leave with Kayla, our first little one, I just thought to myself, I looked at the unemployment rate and I said, this is unacceptable. There can't be so many people that are unemployed. There has to be a way to, get recruiters and people that are looking for jobs, into one sort of group, and of course, there's a lot of job opportunities within our area, and there's a lot of people looking for jobs within our area. So let's try and get them together. So I formed a group on Facebook, and at that time it was just for the Northcliffe area. And, recruiters would post jobs, and people within the community, if they had that skill, they would apply for those roles. And right now it's sort of shifted to more of a bigger Johannesburg sort of group, and we're sitting with like over 68,000 people on that group.
Oh, wow.
I was just telling him today, I get sometimes in a day 300 job postings,
Wow.
that I have to go through, and I go through it myself.
It's a different story when you're a administrator of those groups. I think sometimes people go on the groups and you get people that can get very snotty and very like, oh yeah, this and that. But they do not understand how much time and effort it takes. And that's one of the reasons with the South African Institute, one of our programs is to actually help people that run communities, because you're doing that in your part-time, it's like the whole idea is to try and help everybody to do that. So I've got to go through those job postings, and you kind of don't want to put out scams or anything. You got to, because
there's enough of scam, and just something that the community will be able to benefit from. So that's where where I heard about the South African Institute of Canada, and I saw Louise post on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and I wanted to get involved. That's definitely something up my alley, something that I'm very passionate about.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just to get the community together here in Canada and help each other out in terms of, whether it's, you just come in, just landing in Canada and you need some help, or you want to start up for business, or anything, just networking, right?
Yeah, it's just that network. We were chatting about it earlier on, and I've spoken about it so many times, but the fact of the matter is that it took me a lifetime to build up a network in South Africa that I could lean on, that I could tap into, that I could work with, and then I left it there. And now I arrive here and I have zero network. And it's not like we're trying to I just want to create a little South Africa over here. It's just an easy way to short circuit the network building a little bit with a community that you already understand and that you culturally come from the same place you're connected to. And that's what it's all about. And the network is super important,
You'd be surprised by the amount of wealth of knowledge that this community actually has. And we meet with South Africans quite often as well. And there's so many times that they've helped us out in terms of, hey, do this or go here, even if it means like, hey, there's something at Costco,
Lamb neck is on special.
So, I think it's very beneficial to have this community.
It helps. It really does. I think it's so often people discount how important or how just that little bit of it just makes you feel a little bit more secure. Definitely. If you know people.
No, it definitely helps. Of course, if you move, whether you move here, single or with a family, I think it's really important to also be a part of a greater community.
Yes.
Whether it's a South African community, whether it's maybe local parents from your kids who are at school, forming those communities.
Church.
Definitely. And the reason behind that is that it helps with your overall outlook. It helps with settling down. Helps with also feeling like you are a part of something. When it comes to like the South African community that we have met here, again, it goes back to my first story. When we landed, we didn't expect to know anybody, to meet anybody, but just getting those 2 messages meant the world to me. It absolutely meant the world to me. From there we got to meet a lot, quite a few more people, and right now we still meet the South African community, the greater community, at least once or twice a year minimum. So that's great. Just to have that familiarity.
It is so true, because another thing I tell people also is they go like, but we're all South Africans, but we maybe some are older, some are younger, and that's true. It's it's true.
Yeah.
But the whole point of building a network is that you still have that little connection. And yes, I'm not going to hang out with the youngsters and go to the pub every night.
For sure.
But
For sure.
you know, it's just still the fact that I'm connected.
No,
you know?
definitely. And I mean, you can learn off each other. I mean, whether the person is younger or older, you can take off their experience and learn something from them. So I think it's very important.
Very, very. Anything else that you would like people to know about? Anything else? Any advice that you can think of that's important to know?
I mean, from my side, I think it's important to know that you know, if you're in the process of immigrating or you're still looking into it, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, but nothing really prepares you for the actual move than the move itself. I know that's you know, a bit of a difficult it's a bit of a conundrum, but the truth of the matter is that you have to be willing to let go of a lot to gain a lot.
Yes.
And if you go in with that mindset to be open towards things, I think it definitely makes the journey a lot easier.
I think so too. I think that is very, very true. And there's a fine line between reaching out and connecting with your with the South African community over here, and actually closing yourself off to connecting with other communities. And that's just one thing that we need to, you know, we always need to keep in mind. It's like, it's all fine and well, we want to connect with our community and we want to network, but you have to have an open mind. I still love what you were saying earlier about talking about home, because the moment if you still talk about South Africa as home, in your brain it sits like that. And you can't open yourself up for what is happening over here for your future.
Yeah, definitely. And we didn't want to feel like we're in transit while we're here.
Yeah.
So hence why we said, okay, no, this is home. This is our base now.
It does become easier once you have your PR though.
100%. Up until that point, we felt like we were in purgatory. I'm not gonna lie. But we had known what we wanted to do to get to our PR and what we needed to do. So we kept working towards it. And I know with the current immigration system, it might seem daunting and a little tougher. But I would suggest that, you know, look at what options you have available. Speak to registered immigration, either attorneys or agents. Please make sure that they are registered with, you know, a certified body. That I think that's very important. And then get the best possible advice and look at what routes you could potentially take.
Yes.
I think one of the decisions we made is because it was so difficult also trying to get into Canada, and the route that we came was a little different from what everybody usually comes through. We actually use an immigration consultant here in Vancouver, because we felt like if they could probably get a lot of people from a lot of other countries in, they probably know how to to do it, right?
I mean, when in doubt, turn to a professional.
That's right.
So we actually used a professional for most of our immigration process. Not that you need to. I think ours was just a little complicated.
You know what? I see it oftentimes. People go, yes, you can use you can do it yourself, and technically you can. But if you ever looked at the IRCC website, it's possible.
So
but is it plausible?
That's the thing. So there's a wealth of knowledge there, but good luck finding exactly which pieces you need, because there's so much. So I we had that conversation. I said, okay, it will cost us a bit of money, but at the end of the day, what's going to be the outcome, and will it be the outcome that we want, and where can we focus our efforts? So instead of focusing our efforts on that, I mean, there was still work on our part. We focus a lot of our efforts then on just studying, building our career, networking, and we did what we had to do, but we let the attorneys figure that the rest of it out and assist us along the way.
But it does help to actually have understanding of what it is that they got to do, because I have heard about people that left it up to the attorneys, and then it turned into a little bit of a nightmare because the attorney didn't submit the things at the right time.
Of course, like you have to.
I think we had a bit of like a similar issue. The first agent that we had initially used in like 2020. Messed us around. They wasted about 6 months of our time, and in that time period, based on our initial points, we were a shoo-in for immediate PR.
Yeah.
And then lockdown happened and the points went up. And then, so you now, okay, what now? And so we had to change our strategy. And we had to take on an immigration lawyer who advised us, okay, these are your options.
Yeah.
And the one option aligned with the fact that I wanted to complete my studies. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. I mean, we said best case, we get permanent residency out of it. Worst case, we don't, but we've had experience, we've worked in the country, and then we look at the next opportunity. So we had that mindset. But when we came and you know, we got into the system, we realized, okay, we want this. And so we worked towards it.
So join as many groups as possible on Facebook on immigration. There's a lot of South African groups as well. Have so many so much of information on there.
And there's a lot of people that are it's one thing I do find amazing though with the South African communities here on the different Facebook groups and on everything. You know, people are actually really helpful.
Yes.
That it is, I think that the fact that we are so far from South Africa, so far from our roots, have made people a lot more together, and they want to be part, and they want to be helpful, and they want to be part of things. And I often say to people, they go, yeah, well, what happens? And I'm like, there's an amazing South African community out here, and if you have a problem, they will help you.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, silly things, whatever. Over the December holiday, a young lady messaged me. She's flying to she works on a farm out in northern BC or up 4 hours from here, and she's flying out to her parents in Saskatchewan, and she wants a place to park her car because she got referred by somebody else, and then she actually posted on one of the Facebook groups, but somehow her post didn't get approved right away, so it stuck for a while. So she already organized, and we already had it arranged. And then the post went live on the Facebook group after the fact, and she's like, well, it's like 7 or 8 people messaged me and said, come and do it. And the community out here is really giving, and I think that's amazing. I mean, that's what I found. I don't know, you guys over here also.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, I used to drop so many messages on those Facebook groups before even coming to Canada, just saying, what should I do here, or what can I do here, and there was just so many people responded and said, don't stress, you don't need a gynecologist right now, you know, they don't work the same way as
family
South
doctor.
You don't need
you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Like there's people here, things work. Things work.
I mean, with the networking initially and asking those questions is how we even found a place to live before even getting here, which was the Airbnb. It was through a mutual contact
on Facebook.
On a group said, okay, you know what, I worked with this person. I believe they're going to be renting out their space on Airbnb. You can look into it, and that's how we connected. So yes, ask those questions on the group. Use the search function in the group as well, because I always say use the search function first. And then ask the questions, especially if a question hasn't been asked. Go ahead and ask it, because you'd be surprised how many other people might benefit from your question.
That's it. It's all about helping each other. And it's amazing, and that's why so many people that have been here also, that everybody that's been here, even the ones that's been here for 20-30 years, they understand how hard the journey is, and I think that's why a lot of people are paying it forward, and why they get involved and why they help.
Definitely.
Okay, guys, thank you for this. Khadeejah, Naeem,
it's been
nice speaking to you guys. Nice, and I'm sure we'll still see a lot of each other.
Definitely,
I mean, we've got some big plans on business. Working on building a business this year. So you'll definitely see a lot of that coming through.
Brilliant. Excellent, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.